Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to my presentation focused on the very important nutrient of calcium. What does calcium do, and just how much are we supposed to consume? What types of foods can help us increase our calcium intake? Is there such thing as too much calcium? We'll find the answers to all of these questions and more in the upcoming slides. As you might have guessed from that little animation on the first slide, calcium plays a large role in our bodies, specifically our bones and our teeth. In fact, over 99% of the calcium in our body is stored in those two locations. Calcium is also the fifth most abundant element in the human body. However, calcium has other important functions too. In addition to functions inside the body, calcium has even been used in making plaster of Paris to assist in the setting of bones for the past 1,000 years. The recommended daily allowance for calcium depends on your age and gender. Generally, females need 1,000 milligrams daily until the age of 51, when their RDA increases to 1,200 milligrams daily. Men need 1,000 milligrams per day until the age of 71, when their RDA increases to 1,200 milligrams daily. Calcium intake levels are increased at these ages to combat the effects of osteoporosis in the aging population. The upper level for calcium is about 2,500 milligrams per day for adults ages 19 to 50, and 2,000 milligrams per day for those over 50. Calcium's major function in the body is to develop and maintain bones and teeth. Bone is continually being built, broken down, and reshaped. This process of removing and replacing bones is referred to as remodeling. It allows bones to grow normally and to repair and replace damaged or brittle areas. Remodeling also allows for calcium to be withdrawn from bone storage when needed for other functions when dietary intake is inadequate. Other major functions of calcium include the production of fibrin, which is the major protein involved in blood clotting, muscle contractions, transmission of nerve impulses, and cell metabolism. Now, where can we find our sources of calcium? We lose calcium through our skin, nails, teeth, sweat, and more commonly, our urine and our feces. Our bodies don't produce any calcium, so in order to combat our calcium usage and loss, we must get it from other sources. Some of these include dairy products, such as cheese, milk, and yogurt, dark green leafy vegetables, such as broccoli and kale, fish with edible soft bones, such as sardines and canned salmon, calcium-fortified foods and beverages, such as soy products, cereal and fruit juices, and milk substitutes. Spinach provides calcium, but it has a low bioavailability. Most grains don't have high amounts of calcium unless they are fortified. However, they contribute calcium to the diet because they contain small amounts of calcium and people consume them quite frequently. When selecting foods as sources of calcium, both the amount of calcium per serving and the bioavailability of the calcium must be considered. In some plant foods, such as leafy greens, much of the calcium is bound to oxalic acid and is poorly absorbed. For example, as little as 5% of the 250 milligrams of calcium in spinach is bioavailable, only about 13 milligrams. However, a third of the 300 milligrams in a cup of milk is absorbable, yielding a whole 100 milligrams for absorption. There are certain populations who are more prone to calcium deficiency because of their diet, and in this case, they could look into taking a supplement to aid in their calcium intake. When you are looking for a supplement, there are a few things to consider. First, you want to choose brand name supplements that have proven reliability. Look for labels that state purified or have the USP, which stands for United States Pharmacopoeia symbol. The USP verified mark on the supplement label means that the USP has tested and found the calcium supplement to meet its standards for purity and quality. Next, you'll want to read the product label carefully to determine the amount of elemental calcium. which is the actual amount of calcium in the supplement, as well as how many doses or pills you'll have to take. When reading the label, pay close attention to the amount per serving and the serving size. Calcium is absorbed best when taken in amounts of 500 to 600 milligrams or less. This is the case for both foods and supplements. Try to get your calcium-rich foods and or supplements in small amounts throughout the day, preferably with a meal. While it's not recommended, taking your calcium all at once is actually better than not taking it at all. You'll want to take most calcium supplements with food. Eating food produces stomach acid that helps your body absorb most calcium supplements. The one exception to the rule is calcium citrate, which can absorb well taken with or without food. When starting a new calcium supplement, start with a smaller amount to better tolerate it. When switching supplements, try starting with 200 to 300 milligrams every day for a week and drink an extra 6 to 8 ounces of water with it. Then, gradually add more calcium each week. And last, you'll want to be aware that you may experience side effects from calcium supplements, such as gas or constipation. If increasing fluids in your diet does not solve the problem, try another type or brand of calcium. It may require trial and error to find the right supplement for you, but fortunately, as you can see, there are many choices available. Calcium deficiency. Inadequate intakes of dietary calcium from food and supplements produce no real obvious symptoms in the short term because circulating blood levels of calcium are tightly regulated. Hypocalcemia is one possibility of inadequate calcium, though. It results primarily from medical problems or treatments, including renal failure, surgical removal of the stomach, and the use of certain medications, such as diuretics. Symptoms of hypocalcemia include numbness and tingling in the fingers, muscle cramps, convulsions, lethargy, poor appetite, and abnormal heart rhythms. If left untreated, calcium deficiency can even lead to death. Another ailment resulting from calcium deficiency is osteopenia, which if left untreated, can lead to osteoporosis. This would happen when you have a long-term inadequate calcium intake level. The risk of bone fractures increases with osteoporosis because the bones are brittle and fragile. Other symptoms include back pain, loss of height, or stooped posture. If you look in that picture on the left, you can see that the healthy bone is more compact and more filled. It's much more dense, and that is because it's had enough calcium to fuel in its development, whereas the bone on the right is more spongy and is more liable to break easier. And then you can see a demonstration of that stooped back that a lot of people experience with osteoporosis. As they get older, their spine just can't support them. As I mentioned earlier, there are a few population groups that are more at risk for calcium deficiency. One of those is postmenopausal women. Menopause leads to bone loss because of decreases in estrogen production, both increase bone resorption and decrease calcium absorption. Another group is amenorrheic women and the female athlete triad. Amenorrhea, which is the condition in which menstrual periods stop or fail to initiate in women of childbearing age, results from reduced circulating estrogen levels that, in turn, have a negative effect on calcium balance. The female athlete triad refers to the combination of disordered eating, amenorrhea, and osteoporosis. Another group would be individuals with lactose intolerance or cow's milk allergies. Lactose intolerance refers to symptoms such as bloating, flatulence, or diarrhea that occur when one consumes more lactose, which is the naturally occurring sugar in milk. Lactose intolerant individuals are at risk of calcium inadequacy if they avoid dairy products. Research suggests that most people with lactose intolerance can consume up to 12 grams of lactose, such as that is present in 8 ounces of milk, with minimal or no symptoms, especially if they're consumed with other foods. Larger amounts can even frequently be consumed if they're spread out over the day and eaten with other foods. Other options to reduce symptoms include eating low lactose dairy products, including aged cheeses such as cheddar or Swiss, yogurt, or lactose reduced or lactose free milk. To ensure adequate calcium intake, lactose intolerant individuals and those with cow's milk allergies can choose non-dairy food sources of the nutrient, such as kale, bok choy, Chinese cabbage, broccoli, collards, and other fortified foods, or they can take a calcium supplement to increase their intake. Excess calcium intake is almost impossible from foods alone. However, it is possible from the overuse of calcium supplements. It is hard to adequately study the adverse effects of calcium, as it would kind of be unethical to purposefully overdose someone with calcium in order to observe what symptoms arise. Calcium toxicity, we do know, can cause irritability, headache, kidney failure, kidney stones, and decreased absorption of other minerals. One potential complication of overconsumption of calcium is hypercalcemia. Hypercalcemia is a condition in which the levels of calcium in your blood are too high. Too much calcium in your blood can weaken your bones, create kidney stones, and interfere with how your heart and brain work. Hypercalcemia is usually a result of overactive parathyroid glands, but it has been connected to an overconsumption of calcium in some cases. Nutrients function in metabolism. Calcium ions help regulate metabolism in the cell by participating in calmodulin systems. Each calmodulin binds 4 calcium ions. When calcium enters a cell because of hormone action and binds to the protein calmodulin, the resulting calcium-calmodulin complex activates many intracellular enzymes, including one that initiates the breakdown of glycogen. This is from our nutrition textbook that we've been studying all semester. Remember that calcium is important not just to the bones, but also to all cells, especially in regards to our blood calcium levels. When a diet is deficient in calcium, osteoclasts are stimulated by parathyroid hormone to release calcium from the bones so that it can enter into the blood. In an opposite fashion, when blood calcium levels are high, the thyroid gland releases calcitonin, which then stimulates the osteoblasts to pull calcium from the blood and deposit that calcium into the bones. Throughout my research on calcium, I did find an interesting fact. The rate at which our bodies absorb calcium differs during various points in our life. During infancy, a time when bone growth is rapidly occurring, calcium absorption is averaged at 60%. The absorption rate slightly declines during childhood, then rises again during puberty, another period of exponential growth. As children reach young adulthood, their calcium absorption rate levels out at about 25%. During pregnancy, however, that rate doubles to accommodate the growing fetus. With aging and after menopause, fractional calcium absorption has been noted to decline on average by 0.21% per year after 40 years of age. This is why, as we age, it is recommended that our daily allowance of calcium increases to accommodate our body's decline in the absorption. It's just kind of interesting that calcium will adjust its own levels according to what our bodies need. The story I found about calcium was highlighted in USA Today in 2016. Right before that story was published, 2 new studies had recently made headlines. One found a link between the supplements and a buildup of calcium in arteries, which is a possible precursor to heart attacks and strokes. A second, wider-ranging study found no heart risks and was the basis of new guidelines from 2 medical groups, saying that calcium supplements should be considered heart safe. So which study do we follow? It turns out that the first study was not really designed in a way that could accurately prove that the calcium supplements caused the artery changes. So, should we take calcium supplements then? Clifford Rosen, a senior scientist at the Maine Medical Center Research Institute at the University of Maine, says no. He continues, most people don't need them. Calcium intake from food has been rising, he says, with recent surveys finding averages around 1,000 milligrams a day, close to or meeting the 1,000 milligrams to 1,200 milligrams recommended for adults. Many people get more calcium than they realize, he says, not just from milk, cheese, and yogurt, but from vegetables, grains, and increasingly fortified foods and beverages. Food is typically always better than supplements, as eating them in real food form also gives you the benefits of other nutrients the food has to offer. Plus, there are still other symptoms that could potentially arise from calcium supplement usage, such as possible constipation, increased risk of kidney stones, and bloating. In conclusion, calcium is a crucial mineral in our body's functions. As with most vitamins and minerals, the choices that we make today play a large role in our health in the future. Making sure that we have adequate intake levels of calcium now will help prevent problems in our later years when our absorption levels start to decline as we move through the aging process. Our bodies do a fantastic job of absorbing calcium through the foods that we eat. Eating a well-balanced diet of fortified whole grains, plenty of fruits and vegetables, low-fat dairy products, and lean meats is the best way to ensure we keep our intake levels up. But if you're having trouble with that, a calcium supplement can help to level things out. Just be careful not to overdo it. Thanks.